been raining for about 3 or 4 hours. Very light, but it would have helped. So I thought, because it's stopped raining now, that I'd cut the grass. Only I'm going to cut the grass with this. I know, seems a bit odd, doesn't it? Well, I'll get on and do it, and then I'll explain later. Well, at least I'll do a section. So yeah, I'm cutting the grass by cutting it out, really. I'm trying to think of everything that I can do that reduces the maintenance on the plot. I feel like that's going to make better use of my time, and if my time is limited, then that makes perfect sense. So I get great pleasure out of managing these raised beds, and the fact that they've got a membrane and wood chip on just means that the overall path maintenance is negligible. Admittedly, I do have to top it up with chippings now and then, and I do have to clear a few weeds because they still grow through the membrane, but relative to mowing the grass, it's just another level really. So I figure that over the course of the next few weeks and months, I'm going to remove grass, at least all the way down here, all the way across, and probably down the bottom there. And I'll go right forward to the edge of this square. So the plan is to eliminate grass in this direction alongside the polytunnel as well. And it's quite a long task, and I'm going to do it in bits. And there's a risk that some weeds will grow back before I get to covering it, but I'm prepared to take that risk. Now you might be thinking, well, it's harder to do right now because it's dry, it's a bit like concrete. But the other side of the coin is when we get into the wet months here, it'll become like a mud bath doing this. So 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I figure if I can chip away at this over the coming weeks, I can get a fair amount done. And well, there'll be no point in mowing this in the coming weeks, just that bit over there for now. Right, so I've done myself probably about 1 metre square, and I think that's the sort of chunks I'm going to work in. In the meantime, I've got some harvesting to do on the beans. Now, they've been pretty difficult because there's not been a great deal of flowers, but things are changing. I'll show you. So it's still the case that below sort of halfway, the volume of flowers is very low, but as you can see at the top now, we're getting quite a proliferation of flowers, and the hot weather means that some of the flowers have been drying up and falling off, and you can see along the base of these plants how many flower petals there are. But we're now starting to get some growth, and I just want to make sure that I take off all the beans that are reasonable at the moment, and that will push all the growth into those beans that have just started to develop now on the upper levels. There are some decent ones up there as well. So I'm going to give this a quick harvest. I am pleased that it's kept very lush, because looking around on local plots, a lot of people's beans are very spindly and lacking foliage, so I've not suffered from that. Okay, let's have a bit of a harvest and see what I get. Not too bad at all. You have to be realistic about these beans though. Some of them have got, well, quite rough outer skins, and I think that's probably because of the heat and the lack of water, but others are really very supple and very, well, they look like they'll snap nicely when you break them, so should make a good eating bean. So that's not a bad crop for an early picking of a late crop, and hopefully those flowers at the top will turn out to be a nice consistent supply of runner beans. Another crop that I elected not to spend time watering because of water being such a valuable resource at the moment was the potatoes. I felt like they were at the end of their normal sort of growing period and that they were best just left. Got quite a lot of bindweed growing in there which I need to remove. And then of course there was these 3 that I got from somebody who said they had a great potato and they had a few left and they'd like to see if they would grow. So I popped them in and I think they're beyond recovery. I don't think they got to maturity, but I think they've been pretty much destroyed by the heat. So now's a good time to see how things have fared. I think what I'm going to do is take one of those out and have a look. That'll be interesting. A bought bagged potato, mid-season planted, so in theory shouldn't be great. And one of my normal pots of shallots, so we'll take one where it's well and truly had its day and see what they return. Okay, I'll get sifting. Well, as you can see, not a bad pot of potatoes, some nice sized potatoes. There's a little bit of scab on some and one of them's in a bit of a bad way, but then that's about watering, we think. So not too bad at all. None of this is going to cause us any problems. So you can see how the compost, well, it's like powder. It's so dry. And of course, electing not to water them, you do face it becoming this sort of powdery compost. But what it does mean is they're storing reasonably well. So we'll probably use quite a few of these over the coming weeks and then maybe just keep a few for December. Do like to use one of my Charlotte potato pots for Christmas dinner and hopefully they won't be too badly marked when we get there. Right, so let's have a look at one of these. Let's take this one and I'll open it up and we'll see what it does. Right, get rid of these tops. Just pull those out, I think. There's a tiny potato on there. Put them in that bucket for now. Same with that one. And I found a seed potato on that. Oh, there we go. That's not a bad potato. Lovely and clean. Right, let's take this out. And this was just put in my compost. There's another one. So I guess a number of you have done this. I've seen there's been a few YouTube competitions on whether you can grow potatoes from supermarket bought potatoes, and clearly you can. So what I will do is just take one pot of these, albeit a small portion, and give it back to the lady who offered them to me to try. So it's always fun to return something to someone who's given it to you to grow. Okay, that's that. So there we go. Half a dozen rather nice looking clean potatoes. Well, Scamp, I think it's time for us to do the garlic. So this garlic has been in the shed now for some weeks and it's at the point where it's dry enough for me just to clip off the roots and clip off the tops and take in for use in the kitchen over the coming winter months. And it's a really simple process. It's nice just to take off the outer leaves to end up with a lovely white garlic. So a little bit of water in there, which I don't want, and I'll sit here, enjoy a little bit of, well, normal sunshine and work my way through this. Good times. Well, there we go. That's my garlic crop for this year, and just about perfect. It's just about what we use over the course of 12 months until the next crop is available. I'll pick a few out from here because there's a couple of different varieties and they look a bit different, but to be honest, when we use them, We use them pretty randomly, but you can see what lovely bulbs they produce, and once you get the marked outer leaves off, they're just wonderful, and they'll keep all the way through. And I have hooked out a few that have got a few. I think I put the fork through that one, and we'll use those cloves first, so I've segregated them. So yeah, pretty good harvest today. And I was going to pick tomatoes, but well, it's getting a bit warm now. That rain seems to have passed and we're into a sunny period, so I think I'll just let them ripen on and get them again tomorrow. Well, hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you did, why not like and subscribe, and you can get my uploads every Wednesday and every Sunday at 8 p.m. And why not comment? I do my best to reply to every single comment. I think I've managed it so far. If I haven't, then I apologise, but I think if people take the time and trouble to comment, then it's only reasonable that I comment back. Diolch yn fawr.